Coming up on today's show.
After what feels like a century, the ThomaHawk Show is back and knocking the rust off.
We're going to talk Will Ferrell DJing at frat parties, the Natty Hackett Bowl heard around the world, and debate if it's time for Bill Belichick to hang up his hoodie.
Plus, in honor of the late, great Dick Butkus, we draft the best names in NFL history.
All of this and much, much more on the Hall of Fame return of the ThomaHawk Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the revampification of the world-famous, Oscar-winning, Hall of Fame inducted ThomaHawk Show. I am your humblest of co-hosts, Andrew Hawkins, former NFL football player, media personality, stout businessman, all of the above, and I'm also very humble. I should continue to mention that. Joined by another man who is so humble, he makes Mother Teresa look like Terrell Owens. Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer, real Hall of Famer, because most of the accolades I say are fake. He is in the building. Joe, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. And one of my favorite parts about that open that you do, Hawk, is watching Juju's face when you say some of those things, because it's like he can't possibly imagine what the words that are coming out of your mouth mean. But you say the same thing almost every week. And I just love that it's the same. It's new every single time for Juju, and it makes me very happy.
Absolutely. 90% of the time, it hits every single time. That's a great segue to our distinguished guest here, Juju Gotti, ATL Shawty, from the one and only Meadowlark Media, as well as Phatt Nat, 3 T's, if you're on Twitter, are in the building. How you guys doing today?
Pretty good, man.
Hey,
doing great.
1-0 WNBA playoffs championship has started.
It's lit.
The time has come.
Okay, who's going to win? Real quick, Juju, tell us who's going to win the WNBA championship this year.
Salute to my sister, Sydney Colson.
Absolutely.
I don't know, man.
Be honest.
Because
no, don't give me the it's a fair. It's they might have a chance.
According to Jonquel Jones. Jonquel Jones, it matters. Foul trouble, should get into early foul trouble. Aces all day. If she can find a way to stay in there and get Sloot Doggy Dog, Courtney Vandersloot, an opportunity to be a scorer more than a passer, I like the Liberty.
All right. So who you picking? You think it's Liberty's going to win?
Me. I got to pick before the end of the show.
All right. Well, I'm picking the Aces because Sid Colston is part of the family here. Natalie, who do you think is going to win?
I'm going with the Aces too.
All right, 2 Aces.
Aces all day.
Joe's wife, his better half, the one he outkicked his coverage with, Annie. She played basketball at Wisconsin. So I would rather ask her expert opinion, but we'll ask you anyway, Joe. Joe, who's going to win?
Yeah. Oh, man. You know me. I never miss a WNBA game. In spite of my wife's prolific basketball career at Wisconsin, I don't follow it as closely as I should. However, I'm always going with the Aces. I love it. I think they look really good under the basket, getting rebounds and scoring points, and I think that's a formula for success in any sport.
Man,
scoring points and playing defense.
You have a long future as a basketball analyst. The funny thing is that's way better than even your NBA analysis.
That's probably true.
Joe's claim to fame is that LeBron James played him in an AAU game and made him turn to football. So, all right, I got a question for you guys before we start to get into some of the Tama headlines here. Does this make me a bad dad? All right. Or tell me how I should have handled this situation. This is honesty hour. So my son, like I said, he's playing tackle football this year. He's here in South Florida where football does not mess around here, right? So he's in a new area, new place. You know, he loves the game. He comes from, he's a suburb kid. He's just a really nice dude. And now he's down here with these boys have been playing tackle for a long time. So on the first day of practice, he's out there. The coaches are like, oh, shoot, we got a little, it's like the age-old sports movie where the kid moves in from California and he got some skills that nobody expected. This is all lining up very much that same way. And so one of the kids on the team who is probably a little threatened by the fact that he's coming in and coaches are oohing and ahhing over him, he gives him where do we get the pads on, bitch? right?
Oh,
So
baby.
now,
my God.
now dad's out of town. Dad's not here. You know what I'm saying? And dad, and to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, that was dad when he was 11. That was my move. You know what I'm saying? And so I get back, and my son is like, okay, this is what happened. How should I have handled it? And I don't know if I gave the right advice, because my advice was, you call him a bitch back, and you say, yeah, we will see. How about that? Right? And I don't know. My wife was kind of like, yeah, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. So, Joe, how should I have handled that? And was it the wrong way to go about it?
So I actually think this was the right way to do it. Knowing Austin and knowing, like you said, what a nice kid he is. I think it's just you trying to encourage him to come out of his shell a little bit, and don't be afraid to push back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an important trait to learn as you're growing up as a young boy and you're playing sports and stuff. Like, somebody's going to try to pick on you and take advantage of the fact that you're nice. So you're just trying to encourage him to fight back a little bit. Maybe not like punch him in the mouth, but stand up for yourself a little bit. I think if you had a kid, maybe like you were when you were a kid, that was probably the wrong reaction, because you probably would do something stupid.
Yeah.
But I think with Austin, I think it's perfect. It's exactly how you should have handled it.
Okay. All right. So that makes me feel better, because I was told that I shouldn't encourage my kids to stoop to the level of other people, and that they probably have things going on in their home life, and that you need to be compassionate. And that wasn't how I felt about the situation. I told him, hey, you let him know if he wants a problem, you want the same thing. Type of energy, right? Juju, what do you think, man? Juju, if we at ATL when Juju was growing up, and Juju, 11-year-old Juju, somebody came, called you the B word out the blue, how do you handle it?
First, I'm from a small town called Waycross, Georgia, where we have more cows than people. I live in Atlanta now. Salute to Waycross. I see y'all. Man, it was an important distinction Joe made, though, because he knows your son. So he said, knowing him and knowing that he may need a stiff, like, snap back, okay, cool, I understand. But absolutely not, Hawk. Do not tell your children to be calling the B words back in my book, in my record book. I think you're totally across the line. I think you need to ask your son for forgiveness for giving him such horrible advice, because that thing might end up in the wrong place.
Dude, even beyond that, that was like a step back from where I wanted to go. I wanted to be like, hey, when you get there tomorrow, don't ask no questions. Just hook off on them to start the practice, like the jail mentality. Like, you get locked up, you got to go find the biggest person and just hook off on them. He's 11. He's 11. So
yeah, he's too old to be hooking. Yeah,
what you mean? That's not Nat.
I think age 2 to like 7, you treat them to be the most biggest gangsters in the world, because those things can't hurt nobody. But around age 8, you teach them what to do with that strength and physical prowl.
Okay.
Whatever.
All right. See, Juju always making me feel that. Nat, tell me I made the right decision. Tell me, Juju.
You made the right decision.
Okay.
I'm Team Hawk on this one. I
right.
think you definitely made the right decision. I think Austin needs to have that dog in him when he's on the field. So I'm glad that you told him to stand up for himself in that moment.
We're all on the same page here. Joe. I can't wait till Joe's son is in this, and I want to see what his reaction is too, because I don't think it'll be kumbaya. All right, so let's get into some Thoma headlines. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you listen. Also, check us out on the DraftKings Network Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. The headline number 1: Will Ferrell. Did you guys see this? Will Ferrell was DJing a frat party at USC over the weekend. And I was wondering, like, do any of these people even know who the hell Will Ferrell is nowadays? And if you were at a party where Will Ferrell was DJing, would you actually stay? Joe, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I would actually absolutely stay, because I think it would be hilarious. I did see the video. It looked like a pretty sweet party. I mean, any college party when you're almost 40 is like a great one to sneak into. That's pregame and like hang out with the young
creepy.
people and feel that energy. And if you watch the video, I don't know if everybody really knew who Will Ferrell was and why he was DJing, because apparently his son, I think, must go to the frat. So maybe they knew who he was. Maybe he'd hung out before, but they were playing it pretty cool. There weren't a ton of people that were trying to get like selfies with him. Everybody was just appreciating the music and the energy that he brought. And so originally I was like, well, maybe they didn't know who he was, but he was just recently in the Barbie movie. So
Oh yeah, true.
I'm not the world's biggest Barbie movie fan. My kids are. And so I guarantee there's a lot of kids at that frat party that loved the Barbie movie, that knew who he was and thought it was really cool. But also, he's probably not as big of a star as he was when we were younger. We were kids when he was like one of the biggest names in comedy.
Yeah, I think it was probably more of our generation, which is why all the old people were like, oh, that's really cool. Will Ferrell's there. And all the young people were like, yeah, nah, we don't care. It sucks getting old, man. And it happens so fast. And like, even by NFL standards, the first time a player, like when was the first time a player said they watched you growing up, Joe? That happened while you were in the league?
Oh yeah. Like year 8 or 9. I mean, because if you think about it, if you're in year 8, like you're 32, or I think I was maybe 33. And the young bucks that are coming in that are rookies, presumably they were like freshmen in high school when you got to the NFL. And so if they were offensive linemen and they were interested in, watching the NFL and watching the Pro Bowl and some of the better players, they probably saw me play. And so it was a compliment in those days, but now it's getting worse because they're like, hey, I remember my dad telling me about you playing, but I was too little to turn the TV on. And it's starting to feel pretty old now.
Oh, it sucks, man. I met Lamar Jackson for the first time a couple years ago. And I was like, I always introduce myself because I never assume anybody knows who I am. It's not like I was a 10-time Pro Bowler like Joe Thomas or a Hall of Famer. But I'm like, yo, what's up, man? I'm Andrew Hawkins, Hawk. Good to meet you. He's like, yeah, I know exactly who you are. I used to watch you when I was a kid on Spike TV. He's like, yeah, my mom would tape all your reality show, and it was messed up. You lost. He was talking about a reality show that I went on before I even played in the CFL. Him and his mom used to watch it together. And I'm like, I feel like the oldest piece of shit on right now.
Does Juju know about your reality show with her?
All of this now.
Oh man, you gotta let him know.
Juju, I am basically who would I be? I'd be probably Clay Aiken of football. Was Clay Aiken the runner-up? I don't know. The runner-up.
I think maybe.
So, Juju, how I got my start in professional football is after college, I didn't get picked up by anybody. And in order to try to make it to the league, I went on a reality show on Spike TV called 4th and Long, where Michael Irvin picked 12 people off the street to compete for a chance with the Dallas Cowboys. I was the runner-up because they didn't want to pick a 5'7" receiver from a reality show to go to the Cowboys. And because of that, a CFL team saw me and they signed me, and I played there 2 years and then made it to the NFL. So,
damn, bro,
you missed the most important part. Juju, this was not like go to training camp, see who's the best. This was like they were trying to kill them. This was Navy SEAL training to see who would survive. And the fact that Hawk should have won says a lot about his character, but it also says like how soft he is now compared to where he used to be able to survive this reality show that was completely built around the model of let's see how many guys we can kill, and whoever survives really wants it the most, and then we'll put him on the practice squad for like 2 weeks and get rid of him.
And it's also weird.
No wonder you telling your son to call them whatever you call them.
Exactly.
I get it now.
What you want to do? I was hungry, both figuratively and literally. I needed the money. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back and get into a little run pass option. All right, welcome back to the ThomaHawk Show. Let's get into a segment we call Run Pass Option. On this segment, Joe and I read a topic, or actually Natalie reads a topic for us, and she asked us if we want to run with it, talk about it, or pass on it and move on. We each get 2 90-second timed opportunities to run with it and 1 45-second opportunity to rebuttal a topic that the other ran with. A lot of rules there, and we hardly ever abide by them. But regardless, it's a lot of fun. So, Natalie, without further ado, get us started.
All right, Hawk. First one. After completing 36 of 46 passes for 317 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 34-20 win over the Falcons, Jamar Chase had 3 touchdowns on Sunday after coming into the week with 0 and after letting the world know that he's always Hawk, run or pass.
I'm going to pass on this one. I do have a take, but I feel like there's going to be other opportunities to go deeper. And I will actually kick it to Joe and give him an opportunity for an extra run if he would like to. Joe, you want to run with this one?
Not really. I mean, but here I'm going to talk about it real quick. I like what the Bengals finally did. Give the ball to Jamar Chase, move Joe Burrow around, get some play action shots down the field, and they look like the same old Bengals. And so I give them a little bit of grace because Burrow was messed up at the beginning of the season and he did not practice at all in training camp. So I'll pass.
The worst pass ever. All right, Nat, what's next?
Okay, Joe, this is for you. In the Natty Hackett Bowl, the Jets beat the Broncos 31-21 after Sean Payton spent all offseason letting the world know how bad of a coach Hackett was. Brees had a career performance, 177 yards rushing, including a 72-yard touchdown that changed the game. Players were seen saying, "Let's get this for Hack" in the pregame warmups, and internet lip readers also said that Robert Saleh told Payton to stay humble in the postgame handshake. Run or pass?
I'm going to run with this one. I love it because my son, he's 7. He's the most diehard football guy of all time right now. And it's so cool because every Sunday, what we do is we get home from church and we plant our butts on the couch and we watch all the football games together. And it's the only time that dude sits in the same spot for more than 5 minutes the whole week. And it's really special. But he asked me actually during this game, like, why are you cheering so hard for the Jets? Like, why do you care? Because we have fantasy players, but I don't have any of the guys that were really in this game. And I told him and I explained, like, this coach, Sean Payton of the Broncos, really disrespected the offensive coordinator for the Jets in the offseason in a way that's unprofessional and that was unprovoked. Like, there was no reason that you had to become the head coach of the Broncos and immediately like shit on the coach that was there for a year or less than a year because he already got his medicine. He got fired. He got booted out of town. Mm-hmm. And all it did was really raise the stakes for what you have to do with these same players. So it was a poor decision that was made by Sean Payton. But the fact that these Jets players coalesced around this, win one for the Gipper, win one for Hackett type thing was so cool because everybody, it seemed like, hated the way that Sean Payton just disrespected this guy who had just previously gotten fired. And clearly the players on the Jets love him. And the fact that they smoked the Broncos ass and that Robert Saleh was able to just wipe Sean Payton's nose in it after the game made it all that much sweeter. And you could feel the passion going into this game, listening to the CJ Uzama's pregame speech where I was ready to storm the beaches of Normandy after I heard that thing.
I loved it. I'm going to rebuttal this one because I love it for the same reasons, and I just want to voice that. My favorite part about this is how NFL players will use anything for motivation because it is so hard to care, like, more than what you already do. Everybody cares because you put the amount of work in, but you always need, like, that little extra humph. And to rally around Nathaniel Hackett for this was really cool, but ultimately I do not think the players really cared. They just needed something to push them over the top. And it did. And they got the W. And ultimately it made Sean Payton look even more stupid for saying those things in the offseason, Juju.
Yeah. I was so happy to see Sean Payton lose. And the way they lose is just so like dangerous, like Mr. Unlimited. More. Bring it on every week. Must see TV, Denver Broncos every week. What Joe said is beautiful. I wish I could get that on a T-shirt. Every word you said on a T-shirt. So unintentional. I mean, you don't have to do that, bro. You didn't have to disrespect that man like that. That man is like you said, they gave him his medicine. They fired him. They sent him off. They what else do you want from him? And then still throw dirt on his name after that. That was beneath everybody involved. So I'm happy to see them folks lose. Salute to Joe.
Juju, the least disrespectful person on planet Earth. Nat, what do we got next?
All right, Hawk. The 76ers visited Deion Sanders in Boulder because for some reason that needed to happen. Coach Prime offered some advice on eliminating dysfunction and accountability, telling Joel Embiid specifically, a lot of folks duck that smoke. They just want to be Tarzan on paper. Run or pass? I'm
going to run with it, and not about anything Deion said, because I believe Deion in anything he says. But to the part where who asked for this, that is my favorite part of sports too. Because what is Deion telling the Philadelphia 76ers that's going to get him over the hump? Like when we were at the Browns together, Joe and I, they would always bring people into practice. Or there was one specifically, Stipe, who is my guy. He is a UFC fighter. And we were really excited to see him. But Stipe was so nervous, he could barely talk. But nobody would laugh or think about it because he can kick our ass. You know what I'm saying? But it was one of those moments where it was like, yeah, I guess it's more than anything, it's just cool to meet people rather than the actual message. There's another motivational part of my time with the Browns where Eric Thomas, who was one of literally the best motivational speakers on the planet. I'm sure you've seen or heard the viral videos around him. Well, he came in one week early in 2016 season, and it was such a good speech, man. And we were like, damn, that's really dope. And so they were like, we're going to bring him in every week. So ET was coming every week motivating us, right? And it will work because he's just super dope. But we were losing every single week. And so I really feel like after like week 5 or 6, ET stopped coming. And I think my theory is that ET was like, yo, this is bad for my brand. I can't be motivating you every week, and you guys still go out there and lose. And so he just completely stopped showing up after that.
My only rebuttal here to that one, Hawk, is if you're going to give a rousing pregame speech, and I know, Hawk, you get invited back to Toledo all the time, and they pay you millions of bucks to give the pregame speech. Don't make it so complex and confusing that everyone has to write it down and then read it over 3 or 4 different times to figure out what the hell you're talking about. Because it took me reading that quote. A lot of folks duck that smoke. They just want to be Tarzan on paper like 4 times before I actually kind of understood what he was trying to say. And to your first point, like, they're professional basketball players. They probably don't even really get all that excited to go play because it's so routine for them. And so they probably just wanted to beat Deion. And really whatever he had to say really didn't matter.
Joe has no idea what duck that smoke means. And most of the players on the Sixers had no idea who Tarzan was. It is quite
We made a perfect team.
Yeah, we need you guys to be perfect. All right, Nat, what's next?
Okay, Joe, after losing 17-10 to the Steelers, the Ravens went from seizing control of the AFC North, according to ESPN, they had over an 80% projected favorite, to falling into first place tie with Pittsburgh. After coming into the season projected to finish last, the Steelers are now the best team in the AFC North. Run or pass?
Yeah, I'll run that one. And actually, it's the opposite. I'm glad you asked that because the Steelers are the worst team in the AFC North. Yeah, they have a great defense, but their offense still stinks. And if it weren't for Baltimore just giving them the game, they would have lost that game too. The Browns should have beat them, except for an unbelievable number of self-inflicted wounds and turnovers and the ref stealing the game at the end of that game. And now that the Bengals are playing good football again, really, it's pretty clear to me that the Steelers are the worst team in the AFC North.
I'm going to rebuttal, but I'm going to let you rebuttal your own thing, Joe, because you're saying the Steelers are the worst, and the Browns lost because of self-inflicted wounds. The Ravens lost because of self-inflicted wounds. Who do you give the nod to more? The team that caused the quote-unquote self-inflicted wounds, or the teams that are doing them? How does that make them the worst when they force both of those teams to do so?
So what you're asking is who is going to be the better team by the end of the season, who's going to have the better record, which looks at the totality of their 17-game schedule, which when you have these weird turnovers, self-inflicted wounds, you can't expect the random unlikely event to happen over and over and over again to get you to where you need to be to win the division. Like there's going to be a reversion to the mean. And my whole point is that the teams that they've beaten thus far have done uncharacteristic, unlikely, uncommon mistakes that they're not just going to see and be the benefactors of these mistakes the rest of the season. And so while it worked in these specific instances, when you look at 17 games, you're going to see much more of an average, and they're not going to be able to be fortunate enough to have 4 or 5 turnovers in every single game and have these easy field positions because their offense still can't run the ball. They can't protect the quarterback, and they can't throw the ball down the field except for back shoulder fades to George Pickens.
Yeah, I can. It's hard to argue, but I can definitely hear all your Steeler bias coming through in every bit of your take. Nat, what do we got next?
I was going to say the same thing. I hear the bias too. Hawk, you're next. We have Jalen Hurts. He became the 4th player in NFL history with 50 pass touchdowns, 25 rush TDs in his first 50 NFL games, joining Dante Culpepper, Cam Newton, and Josh Allen. Oh, run or pass?
I am going to run with it because the reason why I'm running with this one is the backing into weird stat milestones. I am all for it. I would always tell everyone that when I retired, I was the leading receiver in NFL history for any wide receiver 5'7" or under. And that is a claim to fame I will continue to stick on. I mean, even if you think about it, Joe's 10,363 career consecutive snaps, that's kind of a milestone that no one knew they needed until they got it, right? So you got to give these people what they don't know that they want. So I am all for it for Jalen Hurts' very specific and strange stat line, Juju.
Yeah, I mean, You said it there. I have nothing to add to that.
All right, Nat, what we got next?
All right, Joe, last week the Bills took down the red hot Miami Dolphins. This week they lost 25-20 to Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars in London this Sunday, leaving everyone wondering where exactly they fit as it pertains to the NFL's best teams. Run or pass?
I'm going to pass on this one.
All right, I'm going to take his run. I'm going to take his pass, and I'm going to run with it with an extra run. And we got, I think, 45 seconds to do so. I think the Bills may be frauds. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Josh Allen is very good, but he is so good at some point, it has to turn the corner. You have to win these games. When you look at the best teams in the NFL, they perform at a more consistent clip. And I think this has been the Bills, as good as they are, as much as they can play with the top teams at any given moment. They also have lapses like this where they lose to the Aaron Rodgers-less Jets, or they go out to London and they lose to the Jags, who are a decent team, but they shouldn't be of the caliber of the Bills. So at some point, we have to start holding them to a real standard, the standard that we're holding the 49ers to, the standard that we've held the Chiefs to, the standard that we even hold the Dolphins to. So Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, I'm going to need to see more out of you, or otherwise we got to stop calling you an elite team. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into a ThomaHawk draft in honor of an NFL legend. No, not Joe Thomas. All right, welcome back to the ThomaHawk Show. In honor of Dick Butkus, who passed away, the former Chicago Bears legend, we're going to do a ThomaHawk draft where we draft the best NFL names in NFL history. So how this works is we will go through a 3-round, potentially 4, depending on how much time we have left, and then after those rounds, we will put together our list and we will put it on social to see who had the best draft. Dick Butkus was an incredible football player, obviously a lot older than my time, so I didn't see him play. My introduction to him was as a basketball coach on a series Hang Time with Anthony Anderson. And I distinctly remember the moment that I was watching something in sports and saw Dick Butkus, and I'm like, oh, that's the dude from the show. And I had no idea that my man even played football. You talk about more than an athlete, Joe. What is going to be your moment when people say, man, I had no idea that dude played football?
Man, those are great questions. I don't think I have anything positive to look forward to in retirement. And so it's unlikely that anybody will ever know me as anything besides like that old washed up dad that's yelling at the sideline, yelling from the sideline at all the kids while they are laying on the ground during a flag football match.
Completely agree. You are the poster child for less than an athlete. All right, let's get into the draft. I'm going to give myself the first pick because I have the mic. So with the first pick of the ThomaHawk Best Names in NFL History draft, I am on the clock. And my first pick is going to be another Cleveland Browns legend wide receiver from 1969 to 1974. Mr. Fair Hooker is who I am going with.
That was my number 1 draft board.
off the board, just like that.
Matched
Fair Hooker, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Joe, you are up with the second overall pick in the best NFL names
with
draft.
the second overall pick, a guy that I played against a bunch from the Cincinnati Bengals, Frosty Rucker. He always made me so hungry when I would look at his name on the scouting report because I was a big fan of Frosted Flakes growing up, all that sugary goodness that lands in the bottom of your milk once you consume the corn flakes. So I loved him, and going against him was nice. And he was a tough battle USC guy, nice and strong, but clearly one of the greatest names of all time in NFL history because there was not just one E on the end of Frosty or a Y. It was the double E. I mean, he even spelled it the way you should.
You know what? That's an incredible pick. He was number 2 on my big board. Number 1. He's one of my former teammates, and he ended up opening a chain of Frosty stores across the country. So an aptronym is where your name perfectly describes who you are, what you do for a living, and Frosty Rucker was exactly that. Great pick, Joe. All right, next up, we got Team Juju/Nat. Juju, I'm going to give it to you first to make your draft pick in the best NFL names of all time for your squad. Who you got?
Bro, we took a big loss when Fair Hooker went off the board. Big, major loss, Fair Hooker. So I'm going to go with Clinton Dix for 3,000, Bob.
Oh, I love it. That's a damn good choice. One of the better names in the NFL. Clinton Dix. I wonder what goes through someone's mind that named their kid Do we know the history of that? Let's get our researchers on that to see what's going on there.
His father was a joker.
His father.
I don't believe that's the government name. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say I think that's probably his nickname he got as a kid.
All right, well, we'll see. We'll do some research on it. Should we go snake draft here, or should I just go again with the next one? All right, we're gonna snake draft it. We're gonna just go into it. So all right, Nat, you are back up for Team Juju and Nat. Who are you picking in the second round of the best names in NFL history draft?
I'm going Jim Bob Cooter, and I don't think anything has. That's it. Enough said. Mic drop.
Yep, that's a good one. Jim Bob Cooter. He was not. Is he still in the league coaching right now? Colts. Oh, okay, he's with the Colts. Jim Bob C. All right, that's a good one. All right, Joe, you're up next. Second round pick. Best NFL names in history draft.
My former teammate, Barkevious Mingo, the pride of the LSU Tigers. Not sure exactly what the story is behind the name Barkevious, but I always loved it. He was a great teammate, good dude too. And the fact that his last name was Mingo, I just love that last name too. So it was just a perfect combination of two very interesting, unique names.
All right, so right now we got Team Juju and Nat with HaHa Clinton Dix and Jim Bob Cooter. Damn good names. Team Joe Thomas is Frosty Rucker and Barkevious Mingo, two of my former teammates. And I always stop myself from calling players' names weird just because they're different, but they are absolutely different than what we're used to seeing. All right, I'm up. Second round pick. First round pick was Fair Hooker. My next round pick is going to be the law firm, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. Another teammate of mine, and the reason why I'm going with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, besides the fact he sounded like a law firm, the other crazy part of Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis' story is that he is the son of Slim, who is the brother of Baby, who started Cash Money Records. And so when we would be at games, Slim would fly there. He would be in like a Rolls Royce, and Ben Jarvis would be like, yo, so I would just be hanging out in this Rolls Royce limousine, just hanging out with Cash Money, and they'd be like, yo, you need tickets to shows or whatever. It was just a completely opposite experience that you would expect from someone named Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis.
Damn, that's fire.
Ain't it?
Salute to Cash Money, salute to Slim and Baby. We see y'all. We know y'all watch the show.
Exactly. All right, and the reason why I was comfortable going with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, because I know we're going snake draft, and I'm up again. And my next pick is a kicker in the NFL, 1971 to 1973. His name is Happy Feller. So, real life name, real life player, and I'm liking how my team's shaping up right now, Joe. All right, you're up. Third
Pretty
round.
solid.
Yeah, it's damn good picks right now. All right, what you got, Joe?
So if I ever want to know if there's a good name out there, I always ask my kids and just wait for their response. Dick Butkus. They have no idea who that is, but of course they always laugh, right? What a great name. And this one is along that same line. John David Booty. When I told that to my kids, they laughed. And so I immediately knew that had to be one of my players that I captured for the all-time all-name NFL draft.
That's a good one.
Just set my war room in the shambles.
All right. John David Booty comes off the board. Shocked he didn't go earlier rounds. Next up, we got Juju and Nat. Back up. Juju, is on you. Who you got for the best NFL names?
This one, Nat. He just rocked my world. He took John David Booty. I was ready for the big booty.
Nat, who you got?
Can you make this pick?
Okay, so I have a good one. I don't even know. I just discovered this name, but I can't get over it. Buzz Nutter.
Wait, that's not a real human.
There's no way.
This should have been the draft of like, is it or is it not a real name? And so we had to guess.
I mean, this is from like 1958, but hey, Buzz Nutter. That's like 10 out of 10 name.
What position did Buzz Nutter play? Can we get some information?
He was a center. He was a center. He would be an offensive lineman named Buzz Nutter. He probably had a side job as a plumber. He probably smoked cigarettes at halftime, and he was probably 42 years old as a rookie because somebody convinced him in the summertime that if he wanted to play a little ball and make $600 a season, he had a spot for him. So, all right, shout out to Buzz Nutter. All right, well, your guys are back on the board for round 4, our final round of our best names in NFL history draft. Juju, you're up.
It's a brother from the Baltimore Ravens organization. His name was Rock Yasin. You feel me? Rock Yasin. We salute to you, but that's a crazy way to name your child. Rock Yasin. Salute
Rock
to
Your
everybody
Sin
involved.
comes off the board. You probably could have got him in free agency. I'm gonna be honest with you, Juju, but we'll allow it.
Bro, he sent me in shambles when he took Booty out the board.
You
I had
did. You
everything
scrambled,
riding
bro.
on Booty.
You scrambled. This is a very immature segment. Joe, you're up next. Last pick of the best NFL names in history draft. Who do you got?
Yeah, a lot of good ones left, but I had to go with one that left me feeling tough as I walk off the draft stage. Death Holiday is an actual NFL player's name. You got to ask the question, how did he get the nickname Death? Because I don't think his mom named him Death from birth.
There is no way that they are putting on a roster someone named Death Holiday. I wonder what would today's NFL do if they had a player who was one of the faces of their league called Death Holiday? Would they actually call him that, or you think they would convince him to go by something else?
Go by Halloween.
Death Halloween? That sounds like it's even worse. All right, now I'm up. Last pick of the best names in NFL history draft. This is our version of Mr. Irrelevant. This is a tough one. This is a controversial one. Probably not that crazy of a name because it's so recent. But if you really dissect it, it is a little nuts. I'm going back into the offensive line bag, and I'm going with Richard Incognito. And the reason why I'm going with Rich Incognito is because do we know the nickname for Richard, Joe?
Dick.
Yes, and that is also an acronym for Richie Incognito. But Incognito didn't fit him very well because he did not fly under the radar at all. So my fourth pick, I'm going with Richie Incognito. All right, so now we do a little bit of a kind of a retro here. Joe, how do you feel about your draft board right now?
I feel great. There's nobody that I missed on, and I think they're all really first-round grades when I look back and reevaluate, redraft.
All right, so you think you drafted the best? Because I think I'm going to win.
Yeah.
I think Nat drafted the best. She got me on her team, and I blew it. I'm so sorry.
No, we made a good team, so I think we made up for the lacking on the other side.
All right, we're gonna put this on social media. We're gonna get the feedback from the fans. I also had Captain Mutterlin on my draft board. He didn't make it. I pushed him out for Richie Incognito. Team Juju and Nat is HaHa Clinton Dix, Jim Bob Cooter, Buzz Nutter, and Rocky Sin. I'm not gonna lie, Nat brought her A game. Joe Thomas's team is Frosty Rucker, Barcavius Mingo, John David Booty, and Death Holiday. Very, very solid. I got to give him that. And then my team is Fair Hooker, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, Richie Incognito, and Happy Feller. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk more Thoma headlines in our extra point segment. Rodney Harrison, former NFL safety, New England Patriot, Super Bowl champion, who is a host on Sunday Night Football. They do the post game with Coach Tony Dungy. He had Chris Jones on after the Jets played the Chiefs. People were upset with his line of questioning because he was trying to bait Chris Jones into saying how bad that they thought Zach Wilson was. And he said if he watched him on film, he'd be like, you got to be thinking this guy is garbage. And that sent everybody into a firestorm. And so I'm going to ask, what were your initial reactions to how Rodney Harrison chose his words, but also the uproar that happened afterwards?
Yeah, it pissed me off because being in the media world, I understand that it's important. We have to be critical of the players that are on the field and to be honest with what our eyes are telling us about these guys. But I think it's important to not let it get personal where you're now attacking the person instead of the performance of what they're doing on the field. And it just felt so personal for Rodney Harrison to call another man garbage.
Yeah.
And it seems so unnecessary. Like you can talk about his performance as a quarterback. And as you're talking to Chris Jones from the Chiefs, you can tee him up and try to get what you want out of him to say that, they maybe didn't have the respect for Zach Wilson that they would have had there been a different quarterback out there. But to just go like such a low blow at a player who's already struggling, it feels personal. And I think it also brings you down as a media host to a level that is below where you should be and below where that seat should have. And you become basically like an internet chat room hater. I don't think that's a good look for anybody that's trying to be in the media world. And Rodney Harrison's super talented. Like, the guy has been on NBC for a long time. He does a great job. He provides provocative insight a lot of times, but to take a shot at a player like that just felt like it was way too personal. And I hate seeing other people in the media take that line against players that are on the field. You can criticize their performance all day, but don't make it personal.
Maybe this is me playing a little bit of devil's advocate, because I agree with everything you said. What shocked me was the response of everybody to it, because the reason why I didn't appreciate it, and I won't even say appreciate it, I just say I didn't agree with it, because I don't think Zach Wilson has been playing as quote unquote garbage or bad as he let on, right? And so that's number one. And then number two, as he said it, in my mind, what came was like, oh, this is the same sentiment that everybody has been saying. So I was shocked by the uproar, because literally, you might not use the language, he plays garbage, but when you come on TV and you say he shouldn't be in the NFL, the Jets have no chance to win, he shouldn't be a starter, he shouldn't even be on the roster, get him out of here. What do you think? That's the same exact thing. Those are synonyms. So yes, as a player, if he maybe got a little too comfortable and started talking the way that we talk when we talk about players who we don't think are good, but I didn't feel like it was as much of a personal attack on Zach Wilson. He was talking about his play. He wasn't saying he was a garbage person. But if that's his opinion of a quarterback, I don't think it was that different than what everybody else had been saying about Zach Wilson to that point. I still think that was wrong, because I don't think he was playing as bad as people were letting on.
When he called the man garbage, you thought that that was a reasonable criticism of the performance that Zach Wilson has put on film, and a reasonable description for the seat that Rodney Harrison is sitting in, which is the #1 show in the country every single year, Sunday Night Football. It gets the most eyeballs outside of the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And he's sitting in that seat, presumably trying to act professional and act in a way that gives him enough credibility to the audience. And he starts talking like he's in the locker room. And I get it. He didn't say like, I hate him and his girlfriend and his, family's ugly or something like that. But he called him garbage. Like, that's not saying he didn't play well or he was not providing much resistance on film or he didn't know where to throw the football. Like, he called him garbage.
And if I am an executive at NBC, I am sitting him down. I am sending a strongly worded email. We are having a meeting, and I'm saying this is why you can't do that. Even if you think that you are using the language that a player uses to coerce somebody into something, you cannot do it. And even beyond that, my problem with it was that Zach Wilson played really good that game. So not only do I not think he played garbage coming in, I think his blame was way overstated. You don't make that assertion after he's just played literally the game of his career. That's where it felt personal, is the timing of it.
Two things. One, Chris Jones was trying to basically give credit to Zach Wilson during that interview. If you watch the whole thing, he was saying, no, like we had a lot of respect for him to come in. And so the fact that Rodney Harrison didn't get what he wanted from Chris Jones initially is fine. Like, sometimes that happens in the media. Like, he's a professional. Chris Jones is not going to just go and slam his opponent. But if you're going to come back at him, you need to come from a different perspective to be able to maybe try to get a different idea out of Chris Jones and maybe allow him to admit, like, you know what, we felt like there was some things we could take advantage of. And maybe that's what you get. And that's the soundbite you were looking for. But he came back with like, no, he's garbage. I know you think he's garbage. Instead of allowing Chris to enunciate what he feels about Zach Wilson and what he felt about the situation. Like, he was throwing his own opinion onto Chris Jones and trying to claim that that was Chris Jones's opinion.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that part of it.
Bad journalism.
But I also didn't like the fact that when you have that platform of Sunday Night Football and you're there in post game, like, there's certain things you can and can't say. There's certain words you can and can't say. You obviously can't swear. You can't use extremely derogatory terms. And I think when you're calling a player garbage in that setting, it's different than being on a podcast or it's different than being on a local radio show and saying somebody's garbage. Like, there's a professionalism that I think you need to conduct yourself with when you're conducting a post game interview that's being watched by probably the majority of people that watch the game that are still tuned in. And you're sitting in that seat. You need to conduct yourself and use words that are more respectful of the game of football and of all the people that just went out there and risked life and limb going out and trying to play a game of football to entertain all of us peasants at home.
I love it.
Tell him, Joe.
That was you. You were preaching right there, Joe. I gotta give you some love on that one. You definitely sat me in my place. Juju, I know you agree that, there's never any room for disrespect. As a matter of fact, Juju, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you think that on a football field, people should keep them hands to themselves. Am I right?
I ain't gonna go that far. I'm gonna just say, like Joe, echo his sentiment, man. Respect the platform, brother. Like, it's a difference between where you at and where Pat McAfee them at, and where the different platforms we have for each other. So respect your platform, respect your audience, and use your words carefully. That's all.
That's all
Salute
it
to
is.
Joe, man. That's the man right there. Joe, you got it going on, brother.
You know what?
I got Juju.
I don't come here for this crap. All right. Speaking of respecting your audience, Bill Belichick's Patriots are 1-4. Mac Jones has been benched in back-to-back weeks, and it really feels like they don't know which way is up. So, Joe, I'm going to ask you, is this Bill Belichick being as clever as we remember him being and putting his team in position to get Caleb Williams so he can restart his dynasty? Or is it time for Bill Belichick to hang up the cleats, pass the sticks, whatever, metaphor you want to use? Is his time past him, Joe?
I would never put it above him to tank or below him to tank, well, however you want to look at it, because he's willing to do anything it takes to win, like going back to Spygate and all the different scandals that they've been involved in since he's been in the NFL. But Bill Belichick's 71 years old. I really don't know how much longer he wants to coach football. It doesn't seem like he's having a lot of fun out there right now. Not that he ever really showed
I was going to say, when did he
ton
look
of joy
like
on the
he was
sidelines?
having fun?
but I can imagine in private moments, like when Tom Brady was your quarterback and you put together a good game plan, and then all of a sudden you have this superhuman that goes out and executes it perfectly every single week. Like, that was probably a lot of fun, and that became the expectation. And all of a sudden now you got Mac Jones, who's a smart quarterback, but clearly doesn't have Tom Brady's skill sets. Like, you feel like you're putting him in position to succeed, and now you're 1-4 and you stink. So I imagine he's probably not having a lot of fun, and I wonder what he's thinking about. Should he be doing in, the last few decades of his life? Not saying that he's not going to make it beyond 90, because he's 71 years old right now, but the guy actually has a lot of interest outside of football. He's a humongous sports fan, including the game of lacrosse. He's a big military history buff. He loves boating and fishing. So I just feel like he's probably not tanking for Caleb Williams right now, because he's going to be 72 when Caleb will be a rookie. And you have to assume that once you get a rookie, there's still going to be a learning curve, as good as Caleb Williams is. So maybe when you're 75, he's ready to roll. And at that point, I don't know. I feel like Bill Belichick is going to shock all of us, and he's going to walk away when all of us least expect it. And maybe now we expect it.
I was going to say,
think this year, but I was going to say maybe he'll just do it like middle of the season and be like, nope, I'm going. You'll never see me again. I'm going to go be a lacrosse coach somewhere at like some D3 school.
Yeah, see, that's my thing, is like, to your point about least expected, I feel like we all expect it now, because your head coach or your GM, which he kind of wears both hats, is supposed to put your team in a position to win a Super Bowl. And the question becomes, is he the best option for the New England Patriots to win a Super Bowl based on what we've seen of the New England Patriots post a Tom Brady era? And that's the biggest question. It may be time for him to hang his hoodie up.
To me, seems that the game has passed him by a little bit, and that so many years with Tom Brady and always winning no matter what you did, I think it gave him this perspective on maybe the NFL is a little bit easier. Maybe I have figured it out. And as good as he has always been, not allowing other guys to start smelling themselves and keeping everybody humble, I think there had to be a little bit of that was creeping into his mind. Like, he knew everything that there was to know about coaching. And as long as he was teaching those guys that were going to be the offensive coordinators what to do, they were going to be fine coaching up Mac Jones. And it proved to be a big no. And he regressed. Mac Jones is he regressed in the season with those two guys who are not offensive minds as his offensive coordinator. And he has not been able to pull himself out of that slump that I think was really self-inflicted by who Belichick put in charge of the offense last season.
Well, humble pie will put anything in perspective. And it sounds like he has been listening to the humblest co-host of all time here on the ThomaHawk Show. That does it for this episode of ThomaHawk. We appreciate you guys joining us. Again, shout out to my dog, Joe Thomas. Shout out to Juju Gotti. And shout out to Phatt Nat. Until next time, Joe, take us out.
Joe Hawk yourself.